The Tennessee textbook workshop and meeting for September the 12th, 2025 at 10 a.m. Central Time. And so as we begin this meeting, we'd like to welcome everybody here. So we are available by viewing for those of you that are with us. It is at the Tennessee Textbook Commission Meetings and Workshop web page, and you should find a link. So we will start with our workshop with introduction of commission members and opening remarks. So again, we welcome you to this meeting and thank you for being with us. And if we could start with Ms. Atkinson, if you would start with your introduction.
I'm Becky Atkinson. I'm a high school librarian appointed by Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton.
My name is Daniel French. I'm the West Tennessee representative appointed by the governor.
Rebecca Farley from Cumberland County, and I was appointed by the Katie Capshaw, middle school librarian, appointed by Elizabeth.
Kathy Nicky from East Tennessee. Crystal, appointed by
Linda Cash, Director of Schools. I represent the Southeast, and I was appointed by Lieutenant Governor.
I'm Billy Bryan. I was appointed to the commission by Governor Lee, and I'm a high school teacher at Millington High School in West Tennessee.
Lori Cardoza Moore, representing Middle Tennessee, and I was appointed by Speaker Sexton.
Christy Wallace, Assistant Commissioner of Academics. I represent the Department of Education as well as Commissioner Reynolds.
Nikki Jones Wallace, I'm the state librarian and I represent the Department of Education.
My name is Ann Collier. I am the Senior Director of Career and Technical Education at the Tennessee Department of Education.
Thank you for being here. We will start with our workshop agenda. Again, September the 12th, 2025. You can see our agenda items related to social studies and CTE, also with our scoring rubrics and advisory panel. And so as we begin this, various people will be speaking and we appreciate them for being here. So any questions related to the workshop agenda before we start? Okay, hearing none. We're going to start with Schedule F, Social Studies Academic Standards Overview Presentation. At this time, I would like to recognize Mr. Michael Bradburn, Senior Director of Secondary Literacy, Humanities, and Student Opportunities, Tennessee Department of Education. You do a lot.
It's a long title, yeah. Is it okay if I sit or do you want me to stand? Where did you want me to stand?
Standing.
Okay, great. Happy to do it. Yeah. So I am excited to get to share a little bit of information after our conversations last time about the standards revision and then the textbook review process. Rebecca Reed, who is our K-12 social studies manager, put some information together just so you can get an overview on the process of the standards revision, but also just to make sure that you understand some of the ways that we're going to support social studies instruction across the state as we implement the new materials and standards. So I'm going to walk through this. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Happy to answer anything that you have. So you can go ahead to the next slide. And these are a few things that we are going to talk about to the agenda, if you don't care, Kendra. There we go. So we're going to talk about the revision process just because there were some questions about that previously. Then the shifts and the standards, and just give you some examples of the way that the standards have shifted as we were looking at materials. And then finally, talking about some of the ways that we're going to support teachers before an official question session. So when we're thinking about the revision process, remember this is a process that's directed by the State Board of Education. So they facilitate the process, they hire their reviewers, they make sure that all of those things are approved and ready. And that process started, you can go to the next slide. So it started in the summer of 2022. During that process, they received public feedback. Then the Educator Review Committee got together to make an initial draft of the revised standards. Then they received more public feedback on the first set of revisions, followed by another Educator Recommendation Committee that got together to look at that feedback, make the final recommendation on the standards prior to that being voted on and approved by the State Board of Education. So on the next slide, you'll be able to see sort of the timeline. In February of 24, those were voted on. And then you know that starting this year, we're going to be looking and supporting you all as needed as you start the review process of HQIM and materials. Then in 26, 27, that'll be the district adoption. So they'll have the opportunity to review the approved materials on the list, followed by implementation the 27, 28 school year. So that's a little bit about the standards review and implementation process. Any questions there before we talk about some of the specific shifts? Are you sure? Okay, so for the standard shifts, we've broken down into grade bands just to give you a little bit of information as you were thinking about the reviewers that you're going to hire to do this process and some of the things that you may be, looking at and talking with them about. And so in the K2 grade band, you can see the table, right? Current standards and then the revised standards, just to show you that the majority of the standards in that K2 space focused on the revisions of the language. So that was to provide precision and clarity to the grade level teachers. So that way they know, exactly what they're going to be working with their students on. And so you can see just the first example goes, and you can see how they've added to it, again, to provide that clarity. So that way they know exactly what the students are going to do. So I'm not going to read that necessarily to you, but you can see that that's called out in that bold. And then they also combined a few of the standards. And so as a grade band, the kindergarten standards went from 20 standards to a total of 18 standards. So again, some of that condensing happened. First grade went from 26 to 24. Second grade went from 32 to 28. So again, a lot of the standards stayed similar in terms of number, but then they were revised to provide that clarity and vocabulary. Okay, so on the next one, we're going to see the grades 3 through 5. So if you've talked to any social studies teachers across the state, you probably know that they're talking a lot about sort of the reorganization or shifting of topics. So on the table, you'll be able to see that currently in third grade, as a part of the social studies standards, students in third grade get geography and economics, and then early American and Tennessee history. And then that's going to be shifting when the new standards are implemented to the history of the United States, early American to the westward expansion. So there's a shift there, moving that, and you'll notice the geography down to fifth grade when we get there. So in fourth grade, it was the Revolution to Reconstruction for the history of the United States. And then in the revised standard, it's going to be prior to the Civil War to the civil rights movements. So again, some shifting there of that content. And then in fifth grade, we've got part 1 currently in the current standards would be the history of the United States to the civil rights movement and then Tennessee history. And then the revised standards have the Tennessee history, and there is PC, let me see which one it is. Yeah. PC 523 requires that Tennessee history is taught in the first semester of their fifth grade year. And so that is why that shift is here. And then that geography is moved down here as well. So you can see, through that reorganization, there were some content shifts that happened. The third grade standards went from 31 to 33, fourth grade from 41 to 43, and then fifth grade from 54 to 46. And so another, question that sometimes comes up is like, when are our students learning geography? And so just to clarify that, geography is moving from third grade to fifth grade. And so this is that required elementary grade space where they learn geography prior to the integration of geography at the high school courses. Any questions about the third through fifth grade band? Okay. So for sixth and eighth grade, again, going back to the majority of the revisions, focusing on that vocabulary shifting for precision at each of the grade bands, and then adding some content for context. And so specifically around listing out the specific information that will need to be taught in each of those grade bands. So there are some examples there. The amount of standards in sixth and seventh grade remain the same. So there weren't any condensed standards or shifts there. In eighth grade, it went from 75 to 74 standards. Okay, and then we can go to the high school slide. So again, revision of the language to provide teachers clarity around what the students would be learning, and then removal of some of the specifics for concise content. So you can see that there were some combinations that happened between this U.S. history course combined into one that sort of called it out. And so when you're looking at the U.S. history, 95 to 94, economics 50 to 47, government and civics went from 35 to 47, geography 53 to 46, and 89 to 76. So again, just sharing the numbers a little bit to show that there was some condensing of the standards and then some of that shifting that happened specifically there. Any questions about that high school?
I don't have questions, but just a point, the school systems and the high schools that are on block scheduling, and we have quite a few of them, with the amount of standards that are in those social studies and history contents, in that time, that first semester, that's a lot So some intense training coming from the department on how to, work with that in that small time frame would be very beneficial.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing as, materials are reviewed, looking at the amount of lessons that are there and how all of that content would be covered would be a really important piece for the review panel to think about to ensure that all of the standards can be taught during that block of time that they have. I think that's a good call out for sure. And I will note that when I was running through the numbers, I was saying them really quickly. But for the civics and government and civics course, it went from 35 to 47, which is the only increase in standards with the focus on civics instruction, just ensuring that there is sort of a really clear understanding and grounding in what civics instruction. So there were new standards added there, and one of the examples is describe the purpose and function of a government. So again, that could have been occurring and it may not have been occurring. And so now that it's one of the standards, it would be an expectation that that occurs. So just wanted to call that shift out as well. Okay. So then the last thing that we want to share with you is with all of these shifts, like Dr. Cash brought up, what's the intent to support teachers to ensure that students are getting the social studies instruction that they deserve. And so one of the things that we're really excited about coming out this late fall or early winter is a social studies instructional practice guide. So depending on where you are, this may be a term that you've heard of before through an IPG in literacy and math. There's a science IPG, and so we will be adding the addition of the social studies IPG just to help define what high quality social studies instruction looks like in the classroom. So that can be used as a reflection, coaching, and walkthrough tool to help school leaders and district leaders as they are supporting teachers to support students. The other thing that we're really excited about is Becca is working to create standards guides. And so, again, very similar to our ELA standards guides, we have math IMDs, we have the science standards support guides. This is going to be some standards guides specifically for social studies instructions to help teachers understand the depth at which they need to teach the standards. And those are being created on our current version of the standards. So that way teachers can go ahead and start familiarizing themselves with them and start supporting students with high quality instruction. But also, the intent would be once the revised standards are implemented, they would also be revised to show the revisions and how to support teachers there with that standards instruction. And then, Becca is talking with a group of social studies teachers from around the state, really talking to them about what would be beneficial. Like, how could we support you during the implementation of these new materials, during the implementation of the revised standards, during the gaps, right? Especially in that 3rd through 5th grade space, as they are thinking through, if there's a shift and the teachers, that there's a group of students that will miss some of that instruction. So we just want to ensure that the vertical progression of standards is there. So we're thinking about the best way in conjunction with their high quality instructional materials, right? So they've got the materials that will be grade level specific, but there will be some content that's needed to make sure that we fill those gaps. So what the best way of ensuring that that happens is something that Becca is working on for sure. So again, thinking about those instructional shifts with the IPG, thinking about the standards implementation with the standards guides, and then those potential gaps in the guidance that we can offer to help show that students get the social studies instruction that they need during the transition. So I think we officially, and you can go to the next one, Kendra, it's questions. So what other questions do you have for me? If there's something that I can help with, or if it's specific content questions, Becca's email is, I can share with you.
Can you remind me when these standards are implemented? Does it correlate with the new materials, or are they implemented for?
That's right. It correlates with the new materials. So, and it was on the side, the 27, 28.
28.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so
right.
the standards will happen the same time the new materials happen.
You got it.
Okay.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And so once you all complete your review process, districts have a year to review them at the district level and make their determination on materials. Then they're implemented the following fall.
And when will that support happen? Will it happen the year before, or will it not happen until the year?
Yeah, so historically, right, and that's what we are working on internally, but historically, the year during the district adoption, we have been talking about shifts in support. So that way they are prepared to implement the materials and not learning while implementation is happening.
Any other questions?
Great, thank you all.
Moving on to Schedule F, CTE Academic Standards Overview Presentation.
before and beyond are those standards and those programs. Everything else is exactly the same as what we used in Schedule E. Questions or anything that we can clarify on those rubrics?
Like I always have something, but, my apologies. So as I've been reviewing and looking at the adoption cycle for CTE and talking, of course, to, my CTE director, Arlette Robinson, we're beginning to have the conversation that it is, so broad and, so many, and we get locked in, to some things, and then people start reaching and grabbing maybe not such great material. If possible, working maybe with, Lee and Houston, myself, anyone else, I'd really like to take a deep dive in how we can, some things that would not necessarily need to come through the textbook adoption process, but could be material that's been vetted and approved, through working with your resources, your CTE directors, your teachers, to say, these are good materials that you can use, because what is happening now, and I know I'm going to get emails, there are many textbook companies and other people that are either reaching out or coming to the district with all this supplemental material saying, and so our question was, well, why didn't you bid? Well, you can just use this as supplemental material and you don't have to bid. And then our teachers are getting their hands on some things that are just not the quality that we're looking for. So just put that in a thinking box and start thinking about how do we, there are some things that definitely need to come through, the human services, those kind of things, but there are some out there, they change so fast that once it's been adopted, it's almost not usable in 2 to 3 years, and we're on an 8-year adoption cycle. So it's just me, observation, listening to my teachers and my supervisors, that maybe we need to look at that a little more deeply and look at some things that we could do. So possibly, in my mind, I don't know if it's legal, so I'll just go ahead and tell you. We have, the department, along with district representation, they have a list of materials that has been vetted that is optional for use versus being hit all the time with materials that have not been vetted at all.
I think that's a wonderful idea. Yes, ma'am, we're looking into that.
Just one more thing for your plate.
Absolutely.
Any other
questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Chairman, thank you so much for bringing this up. Are there examples of, because I thought it was my understanding that even materials have to be vetted and approved before they're chosen or used in the classroom.
They're vetted and approved at the district level if they're supplemental material. It's the vast amount of influx of all of that saying, look at this, look at this, look at this.
Mm-hmm.
And so what my CTE director is saying, this is just too much. If we had a vetted list,
Right.
It would be not, and it doesn't mean, I'm not saying, because supplemental material is not the job of this board, or this commission, but we could do a job of saying, this has been vetted, this is not, and we got caught up in, there's lots of new material out there, and CTE changes so fast that you almost have to constantly be in a vetting operations that I think maybe we could find a more efficient way to do it. So let me kind of clarify. We're not seeing things that are prohibited by Tennessee or anything. We're seeing lack of quality and depth that our kids need to be exposed to. But it's quick, it's easy, and if you don't have things that are readily available, a teacher scrambling wants something, which we understand, but we would just like to have at least some things that we know, yes, this is good. This is, there just needs to be something, because they're all getting hit.
Right.
And honestly, if you're a small district, you don't have enough people to continue to operate like that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. But we're not seeing anything that is a red flag for for, violating Tennessee law on that content. It's just the material itself is just not high quality. It's a service piece and we'd like to just maybe look at that. Thank you for that question.
I think that's a great idea on two fronts. The innovative school model grant was certainly a blessing to us, but it became public knowledge that CTE had a lot of money. And
Yeah.
so materials were created quickly. On top of that, more than half of our CTE directors have 3 years or less experience
Yeah.
in the position, so they don't know what they don't know maybe yet.
But they want something.
Encourage thing, yeah. I think that's a great idea.
Dr. Cash, may I? Just a comment about that consideration. It might be of interest to the commission to consider some rubric developments for districts to utilize, because I know from the department perspective, a lot of our LEAs are appreciative of the local choice, local opportunity to review supplemental materials. So I will say there is a distinct difference between supplemental materials that are less than 180 days of instructional materials, which is considered a full curriculum, which is what comes before this commission for consideration. And it's voted on, approved, goes through state board. So perhaps it's just considered and up for maybe further conversation around some quality rubrics or quality indicators in terms of considering all of those materials and those publishers that are coming to the district. Like I fully realize that it is probably an influx of constant visits, constant sales calls, constant customer service, points of contact in terms of try this material, hey, we have this new product, so on and so forth. So just a consideration, because I know that the lines between supplemental materials and being reviewed at the local level for less than 180 days of instruction versus a full curriculum set in which has to come before the commission during the adoption cycles really is kind of a point of clarity that, would maybe be supportive to districts.
I actually think that's an excellent idea in working with the department. I do think, even if there is a group of high quality people that want to know the rubric coming out, and it's honestly, Dr. Wall, is not just CTE, but CTE it's just an influx of material. So I am very open to that. I don't feel about that.
I wonder if there could be both, like if we have a rubric, but also here's a list of suggested things that have been vetted, but also here's a rubric. If somebody new comes to you, you could use this to vet it yourself. I don't know if that's too much, but.
I like the rubric, and that if it's been vetted with a rubric that created, there could be a depository or something where it might say, Bradley County Schools vetted this. This is our rubric. This is how we scored. Then it's still not. I don't know. It's not endorsed by the department, but it's been vetted by a school system.
And that would help those smaller.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's always nice to collaborate and say, this county said this, we followed the rubric, and we could just do that.
I like that. Thank you for that suggestion.
The other thing I wanted to bring to your attention was the reviewer exercise, which will remain the same as the one that we had last year. It worked very well as far as a letter of intent and also a curricular task where they show how they use resources in their classroom and also how they create a task in their classroom. That worked very well, and it helped us kind of seeing who knew the content and who did not. Any questions? All right, thank you.
We are moving on in our workshop agenda to number 5, the Schedule F scoring rubrics. Mr. Michael Bradburn, if you would like to talk to us about the opportunities in Tennessee and Candy with CTE. Did I just do that, the scoring rubrics?
I did not mention them, but I'm happy to talk. You got a copy or have at least seen the rubrics for each of the grade levels and the high school courses. I will add that after our last meeting, one of the things that we did was add the content, grade level, or course to the top of the rubric, so that way they're easier to find. And then all of the others, we didn't make any other adjustments based on feedback that we received. So the only variance between each of the rubrics would be the specific content standards for the grade levels for the courses for high school. So there were no other revisions were made.
Going back to the standards that you reviewed this morning, they were reflective of this work.
The revised standards, that's right, yeah. So it'll be the new standards.
Dr. Cash, I have a question. Back to what you mentioned earlier about the block schedule. And you mentioned maybe that should be part of the rubric. I kind of breezed through that, but I didn't see anything that mentioned lesson numbers, or could this be, is there something in the rubric that would point that out? Can this be done in a block schedule?
I'm sure that's something that's been called out previously in other content areas. Sorry, Dr. Cash, to interrupt.
Well, it's also because there's like 96 standards.
That's right.
It's heavy in standards. I would think, just coming back to you, that at the school level, that would be something that they would be looking at, is to see, can we even fit this in the way it's done? But that may be some work we also need to do, people, is look at the like schedule. And typically the districts, actually work on a pacing guide. And when you're working on that pacing guide, that's when you're trying to fit all that stuff in, so.
Yeah, and I think that could also be that year's worth of training as they're making their district level decision.
Right.
You know, thinking about your schedule and thinking about the content standards and how that would look with each of the approved.
Michael, when you're being a panelist, could that be something that's addressed during that training?
Yeah, I think we could add that
Yeah.
for sure when we're talking to them about, thinking through making notes potentially if it looks like it's something, if there's a scope, because there could potentially be a scope for both, if it's a full year or if it's a different sort of schedule. So we can make a note for that. But we can talk about during the year-long district district selection process, but then also at the advisory panel training.
Any other questions or comments?
Maybe not so much a question, but in perusing through the different rubrics there, I saw I did read carefully the econ standards because I'm a econ teacher. I noticed there were a couple of copy and paste errors.
Okay,
3 and 4 were the same and 5 and 6 were the same. So you guys want to
I appreciate you calling that out.
all those?
Yeah, we have looked and the copying and pasting becomes tricky, so we will take another look at each of those and date them specifically. So if you do see those, tell us, please.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we are looking at number 6, Schedule F, Advisory Panelist Review, Selection Process and Application. And that would go to Ms. Lee Houston, the Executive Director of the Facebook Committee.
If you'll go behind number 3. This is the same application that we went through and all the changes that we've done in the past. This is current. This is exactly what we used for the one that we were just finishing. They will go through the application process, answer the question. We will divvy those up at the January meeting, just like you always do with your team and score individually and then send it to us. CTE and Social Studies has sent us their scoring task. Just keep flipping, that's on in 3 and a little bit in 4. And then they score the task because they're the experts on the task, we aren't. And then we go through the rubrics of that, and that'll be our next panelist of for the social studies analysis.
If I could bring your attention, and they are numbered on the second page. I know Ms. Cordova Morgan has questions about this. You have one question that greatly opens up to other candidates, but other than school system, describe the credentials you hold which qualify you to serve as a textbook advisory panel member to Schedule F subjects. That could be anybody with the credentials to review. And then another one, describe your specific knowledge of and expertise you have in the subject matter. So that really opens it up for others to put other credentials that they might have, people that we might work on, might have a different level. So I appreciate that being on there. I also want to point out when you're looking at the statewide adoption, the other questions actually really do come back to not just teachers, but to other possible applicants being able to tell us what their expertise is and how we can review them and help them.
Are there any questions on that? Anything else?
Okay. Hearing no questions there. On number 7, It's the annual review of our library guidance documents, and then I turn over to Mr. Shep.
Good morning, everyone. Pursuant to TCA 49.6.2201 M1A, the commission must review and update, if applicable, the library guidance document by December 1st of every year. This is typically done at the last meeting of the year of the commission. Last year, for example, it was taken up at the October meeting. The textbook commission staff do not have any updates to this document this year, but nonetheless, the document is before you, is being presented. And if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer those.
Any questions? Hearing no questions, are there, before we move on, are there any items that you would like to review upon hearing all the information today that you would like to go back and ask any question on before we move on to the regular agenda?
Is that library document included in the packet?
It's at behind number 8. It's behind number 8.
Well, you pretty extensively revised this library document last year, so.
Can you just a moment to look at it?
It's noteworthy that this commission has received no appeals in more solid waste this time.
Yeah.
So it's functioning at the local level.
And which is what, again, I think Mike mentioned that, but the whole purpose was the local level being able to monitor what was happening in their schools. So, hearing no questions, we will close the work session and move on to the meeting agenda for the Tennessee Textbook and Instructional Materials Quality Commission. So pursuant to Tennessee Code annotated 49-6-2201 K7, every meeting of the Textbook Commission is made available by viewing by public by clicking on the link or visiting the Tennessee Textbook Commission meetings and workshop webpage. So we will have welcome and introductions. I have to look at my own notes before I go to yours. We have calling to order, and could we have a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Linda Cash,
Present.
Miss Becky Atkinson,
Present.
Mr. Mike Bell, Mr. Billy Bryan,
Present.
Miss Katie Capshaw,
Present.
Miss Lori Cardoza Moore,
Present.
Dr. Rebecca Farley,
Present.
Mr. Daniel French,
Present.
Dr. Kathy Hickey,
Present.
Dr. Cherry Robertson, Dr. Christy Wall.
Here.
Miss Nikki Jones Wall.
Now we'll move to introduction of our commission members, and we will start with our state librarian.
Morning, I'm Nikki Jones Wallace, the State Library Coordinator representing Education.
Christy Wall, Assistant Commissioner of Academics for the Tennessee Department of Education, representing the department and commissioner.
Or for those more representing, excuse me, allergies are bad. Representing Middle Tennessee, and I was appointed by Speaker Sexton.
I'm Billy Bryan. I was appointed to the commission by Governor Lee, and I represent high school teachers.
I'm Linda Cash, Director of Schools for Bradley County in the Southeast, and was appointed by Lieutenant Governor.
Kathy Hickey, representing East Tennessee, appointed by the Lieutenant Governor.
Katie Capshaw, representing librarians, from Middle Tennessee, appointed by the Lieutenant Governor.
Rebecca Farley, Director of Schools, Cumberland County, appointed by Speaker Sexton.
Daniel French, I'm the West Tennessee representative, and I was appointed by the governor.
I'm Becky Atkinson, Public School, High School Librarian, appointed by Speaker of the House.
Thank you so very much. On your agenda, item D, you have a declaration of conflict. It's a statement that we are supposed to read annually, and so I'm going to read it. And anyone who has, questions or anything, please feel free to ask. So before we begin with the agenda, I want to address the matter of conflicts of interest as required by Tennessee Code annotated section 49.6.2201 G1. Under this law, members of the Textbook and Instructional Materials Quality Commission must avoid any situation that could present a direct or indirect conflict of interest in the review, recommendation, or adoption of textbooks and instructional materials. Each member has a duty to act solely in the best interest of the state of Tennessee and its students. A conflict of interest may arise if a member or someone closely connected to them has a financial, professional, or personal relationship with a publisher, vendor, or other party that could benefit from the commission's decisions. This includes any circumstance that could impair or appear to impair our impartial judgment. At this time, I ask each commission member to declare any actual or potential conflicts of interest related to the matters before us today. If any, these declarations will be recorded in the minutes, and where appropriate, the member may be excused from discussion or voting on the relevant item. Our role as members of the commission is to ensure Tennessee students receive high quality, unbiased instructional materials. By making these disclosures openly, we protect the integrity of the commission's work and maintain public trust in the process. I will now pause to allow any declaration of conflict of interest to be made. Seeing there are none, we will now move on to the consent item adoption of the agenda. I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
I need a second. I have a motion and a second. Are there any opposed? If we have a voice vote, please, all in favor say aye, all opposed say nay.
Aye.
Aye, sorry, all opposed say nay. The ayes have it. I'm sorry, that's why technology is bad. I was distracted for a minute. So we have actions, items that will require a roll call vote. Do we have the approval of minutes? Do I have a motion for the approval of minutes?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any discussion? Hearing none, could we have a roll call vote?
Dr. Linda Cash,
Yes.
Ms. Becky Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. Billy Bryan,
Yes.
Ms. Katie Capshaw,
Yes.
Ms. Lori Cardoza Moore,
Yes.
Dr. Rebecca Farley,
Yes.
Mr. Daniel French,
Yes.
Dr. Kathy Hickey.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Item B, and we have the approval of the Schedule F Advisory Panelist application. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, could we have a roll call vote?
Dr. Linda Cash,
Approve.
Ms. Becky Atkinson,
Approve.
Mr. Billy Bryan,
Approve.
Ms. Katie Capshaw,
Approve.
Ms. Lori Cardoza Moore,
Approve.
Dr. Rebecca Farley,
Approve.
Mr. Daniel French,
Approve.
Dr. Kathy Hickey.
Approve.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Item D, library materials appeal is a standing item. Materials appeals are covered during regularly scheduled commission meetings per the commission's library guidance document. Do we have any appeals?
Dr. Cash, just to be sure, are we on, letter C, approval schedule as for the rubrics?
Did I skip it? Well, thank
We
you.
just voted on B last.
Approval, do I have a motion for approval of Schedule F scoring rubrics?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Do I have any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Dr. Linda Cash,
Yes.
Ms. Becky Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. Billy Bryan,
Yes.
Ms. Katie Capshaw.
Yes.
Ms. Lori Cardoza Moore,
Yes.
Dr. Rebecca Farley.
Yes.
Mr. Daniel French,
Yes.
Dr. Kathy Hickey.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, now, item D. We have library appeals, which is a standing item. Do we have any appeals?
We do not.
Hearing none, we will move on to our publisher's appeals. Could I please call Ms. Katie O'Shea? Each publisher wishing to appeal shall have up to 10 minutes to address the commission.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm Katie O'Shea. I'm the director of middle school and high school curriculum at CODHS. Happy to be here today, and thank you again for allowing us to speak to our Cybersecurity 1 course. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with CODHS, so I think you must this handout, but I'll just run down a little background. Okay, so CODHS is a company that is devoted to creating curriculum for K-12 in computer science. We address CS standards and CTE standards across the US, some overseas, but really we focus on creating high quality curriculum in computer science for students. We've been around for 12 years and work across the US in a number of states. Our platform offers coursework, an integrated coding platform, learning management system tools, and we also offer professional development, and we have a live support desk to help teachers and administrators at any point. We have over 150 courses, and for middle school and high school, those courses include lesson plans, instructional videos, hands-on activities, labs, etc. And we are used in 40,000 classrooms every month, which is over 5.5 million students. We have curriculum that's been adopted and state approved in a number of states, including Texas, Utah, South Carolina, Nevada, Indiana, Nebraska, Massachusetts, and in districts independently across the US. And last year in Tennessee, we had 65 districts using CODHS curriculum for computer science and or CTE, with just under 13,000 students using it. And so for this adoption process, CODHS submitted 4 computer science courses, 3 of which have been approved by the textbook committee, and I'm here today because we have a 4th course that was underwritten and hoping to share a little more information with you all in hopes of providing some reassurance and context and perhaps a rethinking. I know, I believe at this point we are not able to adjust our curriculum further, but certainly we would be open to that if that were an opportunity, if you all still have concerns. So the Cybersecurity 1 course has 39 standards, and in the feedback process that we got, we had a few standards that stuck out as concerns about alignment. We addressed those standards, and then in the second round, there's a single standard of the 39 that stood out to you all as not quite in alignment to the extent that you want it to be. That one standard is standard C10H19.4.6. The text of the standard is included here. I will read it just so that we're all working from the same understanding. So the standard is to explain how the different types of personal and small business internet connectivity has changed throughout history, and identify current internet systems most commonly used, consult internet forums, textbooks, industry journals, and other instructional materials, assessing the usefulness of each source to describe the impact these changes have made. Create and present a document or illustration depicting the timeline of development that led to modern day internet systems, citing specific textual evidence. So in our last round of submission of evidence, we provided a link to a lesson overall and then a singular activity. The screenshot of that activity is included. It may be hard to read. And so this is the culminating activity in a lesson that addresses this standard, among others. And in this activity, the student is asked to research the history of internet connectivity, how it's evolved for personal and small business use, using 5 different sources to help create a timeline, analyzing the reliability of each source and using the best ones. They're asked to create a timeline that includes a timeline of advancements from dial-up to fiber optics and 5G, the impact of these changes on personal users and small businesses, and provide specific textual evidence from the sources to support the findings. And then there are some getting started ideas and a link for student submission. So that's what we provided in this last round of feedback. And that was not provided or not deemed to be sufficient evidence. So today I have a little more contextual evidence for you, the history of how this lesson comes together, a little bit about the background of other lessons in the course that help address it, and we'll see where we end up. So the CodeHS content is organized by what we call modules and then lessons and then activities. Modules are comparable to like chapters. And so just to give a little logistical layout here, module 2 or chapter 2 of our Cybersecurity 1 curriculum lays the groundwork for student understanding of trade journals. So there's another standard for this course that is focused on building familiarity with trade journals. And so in module 2, that standard is also listed here. I won't read that one, but essentially students are asked to read and interpret trade journals and cite some evidence from trade journals to explain some technical considerations. So students explore what trade journals are, where to find them, how to use them. They have some example journals linked as a starting point to explore, and they undertake this research project to find trade journals that explain some authentication technology. The example from the lesson is included here. And then, so that lays the groundwork for this, leading into this later standard for students. Module 5 is the heart of the content that addresses the standard that's in question. This module is a hefty module. It is focused on a lot of internet terminology, hardware, networks, connectivity, all of the things that go into building a network for a small business, a home, and or a larger business. And so across the module, I pulled out the specific lessons that also help build student understanding that lead to this eventual activity. Lesson 5.5, this one is actually provides an in-depth look at the history of internet connectivity. There's an instructional video, students do some research, and students are looking at the comparison over time of internet connectivity options in terms of speed and cost and user experience. In lesson 5.7, students work through a small office, this is a lab, an application of knowledge. So students work through a small office, home office scenario about connecting wireless devices to a network. So again, application of some of the knowledge they learned in the first few lessons in this module. Lesson 5.9, students learned about advanced networking, things that may be included in a small business, but more often in larger businesses like file servers, web servers, mail servers, authentication, firewalls, load balancing. So lots of terminology, lots of hardware pieces that can go into creation of a network. And then 5.10, students learn more about network communication, security, ports, protocols, encryptions, firewalls. All of that is the background that helps prepare students for lesson 5.16. So students return to this idea of a small office, home office scenario, and they're analyzing security considerations for that scenario in contrast to some of the larger networks, WANs and larger company networks in terms of the security considerations. They review network topology, they create a network diagram proposal for a small business, and they again briefly review the history of internet connectivity that they learned back in lesson 5.5. So that's a background that again leads into this history of internet connectivity research project that we believe ultimately addresses the standard that was in question. So again, this research project is asking students to explore the history of internet connectivity and specifically how it evolved for personal and small business use. And that again is drawing on all of this knowledge that they've gained as they work through the module. They're asked to locate at least 5 sources to help with the timeline and analyze the reliability of the source, and then using the best ones. And then there's an artifact that is the goal of this particular activity. That artifact is a timeline. So they are asked to create a timeline of advancements from dial-up to fiber optics to 5G, address the impact of the changes on personal users and small businesses, and then cite specific textual evidence from sources to support the findings. And again, some hints about how to get started. So as we look back at the text of the standard, again, I'll read it just to kind of tie it all together, which is, again, the standard asks to explain the industry standards used in wireless networking, including security protocols used to protect the wireless network. Read and interpret trade journals assessing the usefulness of each source to describe the impact the protocol has had on a particular network. Cite evidence from trade journals to explain the secure socket layer. I'm sorry. That's the wrong standard. That's where they're building knowledge about trade journals. So in the standard that is in questions, that is explain how different types of personal and small business internet connectivity has changed throughout history and identify current internet systems most commonly used. Consult internet forums, textbooks, industry journals, and other instructional materials, assessing the usefulness of each source to describe the impacts of the changes. Create and present a document and or illustration depicting the timeline of development that led to modern day internet systems, citing specific textual evidence. I'm not sure what conversation we can have here. I know there's Q&A opportunities. I would just ask that you all reconsider if that's a possibility, and or we welcome any feedback, of course.
Are there any questions?
I would say that it appears that the module does cover the standard, specifically module 5 seems to.
Any other?
Do we have any feedback from our reviewer?
Yes. In the first one, we had one who said that the changes throughout history and how they've changed are not mentioned in that standard. And the second reviewer said that includes a research activity. Then on the, so one did not have it. So then in the appeals, it said the changes throughout the personal internet connectivity and how they have changed are not mentioned here. And so they also have a guide that goes with them, like here it is, so they know where to look, and so where they were told to look.
So, I'm sorry, Chairman.
Yes.
So specifically, the reviewer is saying that the textbook or the curriculum doesn't give the history of.
Personal internet connectivity.
Okay. I see. But what you're saying, or what I'm reading from the activity is that they're supposed to research that on their own, find the history themselves.
I
instead of
think
being
so.
dictated.
Module 5.5 is actually an in-depth, that's where there's a video provided, is the history of internet connectivity. That's the title of the module, in fact.
Oh, okay.
I would say, I believe, well, I mean, I'm supposing, but when we provided the evidence of our coverage of the standard, we linked specifically to that final culminating activity as the evidence, and we did not link to that lesson or other places throughout. Like all the lessons I listed today were not unfortunately linked as part of the evidence that we submitted, and so it's our belief that perhaps we didn't provide a full enough picture of our coverage.
Can you hear the expert? So we're good.
Yeah.
She's going to hear it.
Yeah, just based on what you said, it sounds like it does. I would be interested to review the material and kind of give you my opinion on that. But it sounds like it would meet that criteria. I certainly don't want to discard other security materials if we can get some, so that would be good.
So in looking at the code age 516.
Kenny, it's the one that you received.
Okay.
It was the one that you did receive, so you've seen it, so you can post which page.
So at 5.16.5 was this brief snapshot what was sent as evidence?
Yes.
Okay, so that is very limited in what you sent. Okay,
Yes.
thank you very much.
Can those links be provided?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, can they be changed at this point?
So our job today is to either pass this or fail this. So there's not another opportunity. This is the third round. I'm looking for any comments or anything from either the commission or from the department in support or not in support?
I would be in support of passing.
So we have the department in support of passing. Are there any other comments that you would like to make or anything that you would like to add? Just from my own observation, I do think that you hit it. What you sent for the second review was so limited that they really could not make a decision. We thank you for providing more in-depth and with the department also looking. Before we move to a roll call vote, are there any other questions or any items you would like to ask? Okay, we had an approval of, we are now past that part. We are moving on to approval of list of Schedule E textbook and instructional materials for recommendation to the state board. In this, Hayden, I think we need to vote.
There should be a roll call vote on your decision on code HS, whether to approve or
Yeah.
not to approve, but whether to recommend
Yeah.
that cybersecurity one pass an appeal.
So in my understanding in looking at this is that the rest of of it passed. It was just this one, right? Okay. So I need a motion to either approve or not approve this schedule to move forward to the state board list of approved materials. Do I have a motion for approval?
Point of clarification, there needs to be a motion to approve code HS
Yeah.
cybersecurity one for Schedule E,
Yeah.
and then we will vote on the final list after.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
this should, this should be a
is
motion
adding to
just
it.
for code HS.
This is code, this is just an approval to add this to the list before we vote. Do I have a motion to approve code H?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, could we have a roll call vote?
Dr. Linda Cash.
Yes.
Ms. Becky Atkinson.
Yes.
Mr. Billy Bryan.
Yes.
Ms. Katie Capshaw.
Yes.
Ms. Lori Cardoza Moore.
Yeah.
Dr. Rebecca Farley.
Yes.
Mr. Daniel French.
Yes.
Dr. Kathy Hickey.
Yes.
Motion passes and code HS cybersecurity one will be added to the next list that you guys will be voting on.
Thank you.
As we begin to, that we're finished, right, with that one?
Correct.
All right, that was a long one. That was our publisher appeals, and we had an approval of a list of Schedule E textbook instructional materials for recommendation to the State Board of Education for approval. If you, am I correct? If you will look behind 6, you have, we have just added code HS to for approval. That is your list that will move forward. Have any questions for Ms. Houston?
Just make sure that you, where it says Belleville, that you change that to Patrick on appeal.
For code HS.
Okay, yes. It's about halfway down.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did Cengage not offer to appeal or make a review?
Several did not offer appeal. If you go over past 7, it will tell you by publisher. And Cengage appealed 4. And then they did not appeal the others, they did not choose to.
Are there any
All
questions?
the ones that did submit an appeal did pass now, so the others that were failed chose not to correct anything.
Dr. Cash, I don't know that we have anything to do with this, but my question is, if there's not an approved or passed at all, or no one, then there's no curriculum before that. That's correct. And then what happens?
They will go back to looking at for supplemental material or material that goes back to what I had said
So
before.
that's why that's so.
That happens not just in CTE, we had that with some high school science classes.
Yes.
Districts can always apply with the state board for a waiver
for a specific curriculum that they can. Thank you for that.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I need a motion for approval of the list of Schedule E textbook instructional materials for recommendation to the State Board of Education.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, could we have a roll call vote?
Dr. Linda Cash.
Yes.
Ms. Becky Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. Billy Bryan,
Yes.
Ms. Katie Capshaw,
Yes.
Ms. Lori Cardoza Moore,
Yes.
Dr. Rebecca Farley,
Yes.
Mr. Daniel French,
Yes.
Dr. Kathy Hickey.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to number 5, do we have any requested to speak for public comments? We have none. Moving on to number 6, the 2026 commission meeting dates and locations. If you would look, you have, there will be a virtual special call meeting January 7th, an in-person regularly scheduled meeting on March 4th of 26, an in-person special call meeting July 29th of 26, and an in-person regularly scheduled meeting October 1st of 26. Would you check your calendars to see if you have any concerns? All 2026 in-person meeting locations will take place at Middle Tennessee State University.
Those are the same dates that you had.
Yeah. And just for a point of reference, the virtual special call meeting on January 7th is typically due to weather-related issues that we struggle with that one. Here, are there any other business from the commission?
Dr. Cash, can I make a request to get these dates calendared, just in electronic? Save the date, reserve the time, just so we've all got those on our electronic calendars as well.
And for clarification, when we are setting dates, we need to be working with the department to be sure those dates coincide, that they are available. Before we set dates, we need to be sure of that. Hearing no other business from the commission, we move to adjournment. Thank you.